Well, I never saw my elders talk about climate change, but we definitely lived it.
Climate change is often studied by scientists, measured with graphs and data and linked to predictions of what might happen in the future. But what about the changes in the environment that local people are observing now? The U.S. Forest Service wanted to know what changes communities in Southeast Alaska are experiencing, how residents are already adapting to change, and where they think their communities will be in the future. With permission from local tribal councils, the University of Alaska Fairbanks was contracted to research local perceptions of environmental change. UAF researchers and a Forest Service scientist met with local community experts and elders. Residents in Yakutat, Angoon, and 4 communities on the Prince of Wales Island, Thorn Bay, Kisan, Craig, and Kloak were interviewed. Several patterns emerged after talking with over 90 local residents, including changes in fish runs and animal populations, plants, and weather.
Oh man, there's been terrible change in the amount of fish that come in, or even the amount of herring.
Nobody's ever seen 3 weeks early sockeye, 3 weeks late coho. Nobody's ever seen that before, and all of a sudden it's happening.
Growing up, I remember seeing so much fish in the stream, it was amazing. You wonder what that does because, you know, I've taken health class and every fish that dies has a purpose to that stream. When you have less fish spawning and dying in that stream, it's gotta have an impact.
You mean the sun?
Yeah, the temperatures. Last June was brutal. We had huge amphibian die-offs. None of the spruce grouse nests made it.
There were numerous frogs. Probably from the late 70s, early 80s is when the population started dwindling. And today you don't see one frog.
When I was growing up, I used to hunt with my dad. We'd see like 50 deer in one spot. I mean, there was so much deer, and we would have these hard winters, and I don't seem to see that anymore. Big snowfalls, big deer kills. In a way that was bad for the deer, but it was also good for the deer.
Probably the last 10 years, it started getting warmer, and this year is really noticeable.
The duration of the fall storms are lasting a lot longer, and they're more frequent.
I used to be able to, when I first started weaving, go out on almost just about a set date and gather cedar bark from the trees. Sometimes we get a little heat spell in there that's pretty intense in the spring, and sometimes the cold lingers. And so it's thrown off my gathering time.
We don't hunt for fun, it's for, you know, there's a reason we do everything we do.
All the families still do the same. In fact, it's probably more strengthened than anything because people, you know, tried to preserve it and went and brought things back that, you know, were getting lost.
Some families had strengths in harvesting one thing and others had strengths in harvesting another, you know, but it saves time and it also saves lives, you know, because you're not subjugating yourself to being out in that harsh, inclement weather, you know, where one person can go out and do a lot of harvesting and then bring it in, get it prepared. Now it's ready for barter and or distribution.
We worry about our native foods adjusting to the climates.
The recent studying and understanding of what's happening to the acidification of the ocean and how that's going to affect salmon populations or shellfish populations. Will they be able to adapt?
Yakutat, this is our community. These are sites here that are of concern, contaminated sites that we're cleaning up. And what I notice that's going on, the water is rushing in and eating away the hillsides. So a lot of the equipment from the war is being dropped into the ocean.
Working with Kathy, doing a lot of our marine debris cleanup work, I've really kind of been noticing coastal kind of shoreline. The banks there are just really being eroded.
How will communities in Southeast Alaska adapt to change? The answers reflect optimism, a readiness to access tools and resources, and use local and traditional knowledge to continue and to thrive.
I think actually this room we're standing in and these things that we're doing here are part of that adaptation. Building these canoes, building totem poles, building this old longhouse. The kids are a big part of this process, and one of the very important, maybe most important reason for doing all this. And it gives them a sense of identity.
We've learned to adapt and figure out a new way. Like now, things are so tough here. We're back to the old ways where neighbors help neighbors, and there's no time to argue because we're all trying to survive out here.
When you look at our youth, they're going out and they're gone for a little while, but they always have that need to return back home.
Every place needs to have more control of its own area, and we need to get to a point where we were a long time ago when we had, people had gardens. This way you see the community garden in the middle of the village here. It's one of those steps. They're all small steps. They have to catch on. People have to become interested.
The ability of Yakutat to adapt to this is, one, the landscape's always been changing and people have adapted to it. Two, there's a lot of resources that are going to come online as other resources come offline. Lakes and streams are going to get better as others get poorer.
I see the community as a whole becoming more and more aware of it. There's more talk about it. People who 10 years ago might have been skeptical, very skeptical, are now actively seeking information on what's going on. That's a very positive thing.
Our generators, diesel generators, are emitting and putting out into the atmosphere. And how do we change it? We change it by renewable energy. Wind, solar, wave action.
We're creating some environmental issues ourselves, and we have to be more responsible to ourselves and our community and the world. I'm hoping that in 50 years that we can be self-sufficient. I'm hoping that we're all burning less fossil fuels, and I'm hoping we're recycling our garbage and just be more responsible for our waste.